and welcome to the Clarity Fiber Arts Knitting Podcast. My name is Jody, and I'm coming to you from Pennsylvania, where I live with my husband, Chris, and our little mini dachshund Fig, who you may hear clicking her toenails around. I apologize. This is a knitting podcast primarily. I am a hand dyer, and so at the end of the podcast, I will be talking about some of the things that I have dyed. There's some dyeing content in the middle because of necessity, and I'll talk about that later. But yeah, welcome to all new viewers, and welcome back to all previous viewers of the podcast. This is episode 10, I believe. It's been such a great journey on these first 10 episodes. I've enjoyed so much connecting with the community that I have been interacting with on previous episodes, and I look forward to interacting with more people moving forward. So if you like what you see here, I would really appreciate it if you would like and subscribe so I can get my knitting content out to more knitters. The more knitters and crocheters. I don't crochet, but my yarn can be used for crochet. So any crocheters, you're also welcome. Everybody is welcome here. Anybody that loves fiber, knitting, all of it. I just love all of it. Excuse me. So yes, welcome one more time. It's been quite a while since my last episode. For the viewers who have been around here, you will know that since the last podcast, I've had a hysterectomy, and wow. Just wow. That's all I'm going to say. Prior to about 2 days ago, I was really down and out. Just every day hoping to film a podcast and just really not being able to. It's very difficult for me to get up and walk around, things like that. So all of that to say, it's been almost 4 weeks since my last podcast, and I have missed all of you so much. And on that note, on the last podcast, when I stated that I was having a hysterectomy, I heard from so many people that kept me in their prayers and their well wishes, and I just want to say thank you so very much. Again, this was major surgery, excuse me, and that'll be happening too. This was the most major surgery that I have ever had. As I said, it was no joke. According to my surgeon, some people breeze through it, others do not. There's not really a determining factor. I was one of the unfortunate ones who did not. She did have to do a ton of work. My surgery was like 3.5 hours long, I think. Oh, there's Fig. And yeah, so I'm recovering. Thanks be to God, and it's a slow go. I will not be getting up because you will see my face cringe. I'm not going to be doing a lot of moving around, so I have everything right here by my side. You may hear a little moaning and groaning when I have to turn, but I apologize for that. So let's get into it. Enough about me and my situation. There's Fig making herself comfortable there in the corner. Enough about me and my situation, and let's get into the knitting. One thing I did want to say is, knowing that I was going to have surgery, anticipating the fact that I was going to be probably on some decent pain medication, I set up tons and tons of knitting for myself and very kind of easy breezy things. And so some of those things I will be showing you today. Some have already left my hands. I did a ton of gift knitting during this time, and so I'll have to insert photos of that. So let's get talking to what am I wearing. In the last episode, I showed you that I had acquired some unspun yarn. This is the plate that I had showed you. This is my Manchelopis in the colorway Verde Botella or Botella Verde. I can't remember which way it goes, but interpreted, I believe it means green bottle, like a wine bottle. And so I got this yarn with the intent of knitting my Turtledove that I'm wearing, and I am absolutely in love with both the yarn and the sweater. I had about half of it knit prior to my surgery, and so all I really had to do was stockinette in the round all the way down, knit, and then twisted, I believe it's a twisted rib here at the bottom, and then an Italian bind off. And so wasn't much to do there. And then same deal with the sleeves. I forget the size that I knit. It comes in a ton of sizes, but it's just a very nice raglan sleeve sort of construction with a big turtleneck. If you're a previous viewer of the podcast, you'll know that I have an affinity and a love for turtlenecks, and this is no exception. This yarn, let me talk about the yarn a little bit. It's very, the construction is different. I have, prior to this, I fell in love with unspun yarn when I knit with the Nutiden yarn, which I'll be showing you in a minute here. This, I'd say the feel of this is a little bit different. I'm gonna say it's a little less soft than Nutiden. It almost has like a kind of like a spongy feel to it. This feels much more spongy. When you squish the Nutiden yarn, it's sort of it has a little less bounce, if that makes sense. And this comes on the plate double, and so I knit from it held double. I will say much more sturdy right out of the gate. Like as soon as I started knitting with this was knit on a size 9. Right out of the gate, I could feel that I wasn't going to have as many of the frustrations of yarn breakage as I did with the Nutiden. And that is not to say that I like it more than the Nutiden. It's just to say that this is a little more forgiving than some of the things that I have attempted with the Nutiden yarn. And so I am wearing this next to skin. So it is soft enough. It is rustic feeling, but it is soft enough to wear next to skin, in my opinion. You can see, I'll try and come in closer. You can see that it has real nice stitch definition. You can kind of see my raglan increases there really nicely. And again, I'm wearing it turtleneck style right up to my neck. So one thing I wanted to talk about regarding, this yarn and this fully woolly yarn is my newfound appreciation for the lightness of the sweater. The sweater is very light. It's a heavy, it's like dense, I would say, but still light on your body when you wear it. But wow, is it warm. And it just creates a layer of warmth between the sweater and your body. And I don't feel hot in it. I don't get itchy. But it is definitely a little more on the rustic side. So if you're used to knitting with Nutiden, I would say this is a bit more of a rustic feel. It's also a little more, I'm going to say, for lack of a better word, like stiffer. And so it definitely, when you hold it up, it definitely has a stiffness to it. I knit it a little bit oversized because I love a good boxy oversized sweater. I am going to stand up here if I can. So you can see I chose on mine to do this split hem. And the one thing I'm noticing is that, here you can see it kind of at the hemline. Now, some of that has to do with the boxy nature, but it will like sort of stand out and stay there. Now, I don't feel like it looks ridiculous. The split hem kind of comes over my butt a little bit. And so, and that sort of hangs sort of funny too, the way it is. But that is, I believe, more so due to the construction of the yarn than it is, or the way the yarn sort of has that texture and stiffness to it, and the boxy sweater combination. So it's one of those things where I think it's that yarn and pattern combination. But needless to say, I love this sweater, and I have lived in this sweater. I've been sort of having temperature regulation issues since my surgery, and mostly cold, which is, wow, not what I've been lately. And so cold is new to me, but I was cold. I think my body's just trying to heal and take all the circulation to where it needs to heal. And so distally, like my hands and feet and nose have been just cold since my surgery. And so I have gotten a lot of wear out of this in the past couple of weeks. I just throw it on. And like I said, it's a great kind of warmth that, to me thus far, with all the sweaters that I have knit, I have only felt this kind of warmth, if that makes sense, from this sort of unspun yarn. So light, fluffy, airy, and like a layer and a blanket of warmth between the sweater and your skin. So let me see. I wanted to try and do this in some sort of a natural order. But probably not. Don't hold me to it. All right, so I wanted to show you this, and previous viewers will know this too. I originally, when I ordered this yarn, I wanted to incorporate mohair into the yarn, and that didn't happen because when my mohair arrived, despite what it looked like on camera, it did not match. And so here's what I ordered. Excuse me, I'm going to take a sip here. Just sipping some fruit punch with some electrolytes. So everything's all about the healing these days. This is the, now look at that. I can see it here on the screen. This is the mohair that I ordered. This is the, let's see, it's 40% acrylic, 30% mohair, 30% polyamide from Hobby. I'd heard about this, went on the Hobby website, or I might have been on Ravelry, I'm not sure. I heard about this from another podcaster, I forget who it was, but they were talking about this as an inexpensive substitute to, let's say, like a silk mohair type deal. And the reviews were really, really great. People knit with this. And they said they really liked the effect that it gave, and it was, again, over and over like an inexpensive alternative. This is the Hobby Diablo, and again, it has some mohair content to it. And I was so disappointed. You can see here, I really didn't see it on my computer screen, but when the two yarns arrived, they just didn't match. This has many more blue tones to it. It's almost a teal color, I would say. The color that I ordered was, this is called Dusty Pine. And I don't know, I don't see any pine in it. I see teal. I mean, look at it next to my little, I have a lot of teal accents in my house. Look at it next to that wave. It's almost the same color. And so, no worries there. I knit a gauge swatch with this, and it, because I was still just hoping maybe I'll put it together and it'll look great. It did not. And so, so I scrapped that idea, but because I'm a dyer and I have a hand-dyed yarn company, I set out to match this yarn. And I don't do a lot of tonal dyeing or semi-solid dyeing. I do much more variegated things because I mostly knit sock yarn. And so I mostly dye sock yarn. And I dye pretty hefty, like wild colors. That's just how I started out. However, I will tell you, I fell in love with the process of dyeing this tonal yarn, which I think really matches. I'm going to grab it here. Because I had 5 balls of this. And so because I didn't want it to go to waste, I tried to dye a colorway that would match. And this is what I came up with. And so you can see tonally, this is a little bit darker, but I think I did sort of a good job. This is not one color. This is a dip dyed, dyed first in one tone and then sort of combined with another color. And so these two together look really, really nice. And so this is my DK weight cashmere base. Just to talk a little bit about this, it's real nice and squishy. And then, like I said, when I dyed the two different colorways, it has some sort of really nice tonal variation. It even has a little bit of a halo. And when you combine it with this mohair, it becomes very fluffy, and that sort of fluffy look that everyone loves. So the combination of this and this turn out to be a very fluffy piece. And so, as I said, I wanted something kind of knit, mindless sort of thing, and what better project to do that with than a Saturday shrug. I have one of my best girlfriends, also named Jody. I knit her a Saturday shrug. She had a birthday last week, and she came over and hung out with me, and we watched movies, and I gifted her the Saturday shrug. And so I will insert pictures here of her wearing it. I didn't want to use up two of these cashmere skeins because I wanted to list them in my shop. And so I striped and the Saturday shrug is mostly striped anyway. I contemplated just making her a full-on, greenish color shrug. However, I decided to stripe it with some of the stuff that I had left over. I always have, varying skeins of yarn, generally, big box store acrylic type balls of things that I need extra things for. And so I just striped it with a white that I had. I also had a little bit of leftover gray silk mohair from Shirsty Cat, I believe. I believe it was her yarn that I got at a local fiber festival. It was really pretty. It was kind of variegated, but primarily gray. And so I went ahead and made the Saturday shrug, which was a total blast to do. Very fast, very satisfying. I knit it while taking pain medication. And so there aren't any mistakes, I'm happy to say. But so I'll insert a picture of Jody wearing it here. She loved it, and I was pretty thrilled with the fact that I was able to dye such a shade that came pretty close to this. And so that's my tale of my Saturday shrug. Kind of not going in order here, sorry, but that was a finished object. So this is a finished object, my Saturday shrug. The next finished object I have to show you is my husband's Cardi number 8. Again, this is knit in Nutiden yarn. If you're a longtime viewer of the podcast, you will know that I've been working on this. You will know my tale of woe, but just to recap, I was knitting him a different cardigan. I was knitting one by Jared Flood. The name escapes me right now. But it was a disaster. It was bottom up. It was my first time knitting Nutiden. It became very heavy, and I scrapped the whole deal, and I put my Nutiden aside for a very long time. It mocked me from my stash pile, and I really wanted to get back to it. So this time, again, if you're a viewer, you'll know that I held it with a spun just acrylic yarn from Hobby Lobby. It was Yarn Bee Soft and Sleek DK, I believe. So I held 2 strands of Nutiden double with the Soft and Sleek DK, and the difference was just astounding in terms of the sturdiness that it gave the Nutiden yarn. This is Nutiden's Silhouette yarn. It is a color changing yarn, and as you can see, the color sort of changed as I knit down the sweater. Again, I was talking about this on the last podcast. A lot of what they show with the Cardi number 8 is, females wearing it. It is a very sort of, I describe it, and I think it's a pretty accurate description. I don't know what the technical name is for it, but it's got a drop sleeve construction. And on Chris, my husband, it looks very baseball jacket style, I would say. It doesn't, I don't think, in my opinion, I will insert a photo of him wearing it, but I don't think that it looks girly on him whatsoever. The color helps, but I think he looks really cute wearing it, and I'm super happy with how the variegation it's kind of like a fade. It comes down, and I purposely did the sleeves opposite, so this sleeve goes dark to light, and this sleeve goes light to dark. I do have he wants pockets, and so I'm going to go ahead and indulge him. So theoretically, it's not completely finished, but I do have the pockets knit. I have to sew them on there at the bottom. He chose, this would not be my choice, but when you knit something for somebody you love, you have to go with what they want. My husband is a humongous Civil War fan, and so he wanted these replica Civil War buttons on his sweater. He does a bit of writing on the side as a hobby, and he is currently writing a book, a small novel. Not a novel. Novels are big. Just like a small, short story about Civil War, totally fictional. But yes, he does this on the side. This is what we do. In the evenings, I settle in with my knitting. He settles in with his book writing. And this was the whole gist of this cardigan. He wanted a writing cardigan, and he wanted Civil War buttons on it. And so here they are. Again, not my choice. Comment below. Tell me what you think. But when you're knitting for someone you love, do you go with their choices, or do you sort of try and direct? I did try and direct him in an opposite direction with this. And I will tell you also that we live very close to Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, which is convenient for him because he gets his Civil War fix all the time. But we went to Gettysburg for these buttons. I just said to him one Saturday morning, I said, why don't we go to Gettysburg and get your buttons? I like Gettysburg. I am not a person who goes to museums and reads all the things. And so when we go to the Civil War Museum, I bring my knitting in a bag, and I find a bench, and I look at things, and then I go sit on the bench while he takes another hour or two to read stuff. So when I suggested a trip to Gettysburg, which I never do, it's always him, he was just absolutely thrilled. So here they are. They are silver, and they are shiny, which I would like to at least kind of make patina them a little bit, but I'm not sure exactly how to do that. But there they are, Civil War buttons. He is a completely happy camper. He wears this all day, every day. I'm really surprised I even have it to show to you. The one thing I will say is that the loose knit construction of this particular cardigan, this is nothing against the pattern or the yarn, this loose knit construction tends to make for a very something that catches his jewelry. He does wear bracelets from time to time, and sometimes the clasps of those bracelets have the loop and the thing that goes through it. I don't know, toggle, I guess it would be. And he did catch the toggle one time on his way down through the sleeve, put a puller in it, and I've already had to fix it. So not a big deal, but just I think it happened the first or second time he wore it. We were away on a trip to Washington, and I was pretty upset. I didn't have much to bring along to fix it. So we pinned it, and so he could keep wearing it. But yeah, that's it. Cardi number 8. Here's a picture of him wearing it. It was a great, fun, sort of fast knit. It took me 3 weeks to knit this, and it was fun. Not too complicated. Okay, so that's it for finished objects. I have one more very cool, almost finished object, but I just couldn't finish it before the podcast. So I'm just going to show you what I have. Mentioned this in the last podcast too. I'm pretty proud of myself. All the things that I talked about that I said I wanted to do, I went ahead and did. And so that's not like me. I say things and then never do them. Sometimes, with regard to knitting at least. And so my next, I'm going to throw all this stuff on the floor. My next almost, I'm stepping on the fringe. My next almost finished object is the Waterbury Plaid Scarf by Two of Wands. I think her name is Andrea Tavel, I think, or can't think. I'm so sorry. Anyway, Two of Wands. And I was talking in the last podcast about how I was watching another podcaster. I think it was Amy from Knee Knits, and she knit the Cambria shawl, which I loved, or the Cambria wrap, I think it is, which I loved, and I immediately went to look at the pattern. When I was there looking at the pattern, I saw this and fell more in love with this. And so just a little bit about it. So I'm a big fan of knitting with both, premium yarns and then sort of big box yarns here and there when you can stick them in. And so this is knit with Lion Brand Retweed. I'll show you that right there. Lion Brand Retweed. You can kind of see the construction. It's definitely a tweed. It's very soft and very sort of ropey and braided looking. The content is, I don't have my glasses on. Okay, here we go. It's got wool in it. So it's 40% wool, which I think is very cool from a warmth factor. That's a significant amount of wool. 40% wool, 40% polyester, and 20% acrylic. So it's definitely got that acrylic component, but I think it's pretty cool that it has 40% wool, and I'm really anxious to see how this feels from a warmth standpoint. It's a size 4, and this was knit on size really big needles, like 11. I'm gonna say 11. And so what you do with this yarn, with this scarf, it is just the coolest thing ever. As you can see, it is knit in stripes, and these stripes go on and on and on and on. I will insert a picture of her wearing it, but here we go. They go on and on and on. And there's some fringe here at the end. So, completely garter stitch. You just knit garter and garter and garter and change rows. There is a lot of ends to weave in at the end of these, stripey bits, but no big deal. Then what you do is you take a long strip of the yarn that you use to knit. Okay, there's 48 stitches along here. So 48 stitches along the length, and you go into each row of those stitches, and you weave with a tapestry needle. It's a little wonky right now because I haven't braided the ends or anything yet. But you weave in and out your different colors of yarn. So here I used the peanut butter colorway, and then this is something blue, I forget what it is, and then you use the light blue, and you use the cream color as well. And so you do this, you go weave in and out here like this on all 48 rows. And what it does is it creates striping in vertical striping along your horizontal stripes, and then it becomes a tartan plaid design eventually. The weaving is fun, something I've never done and something I thought was such a cool like concept. You can see here you weave one way for one row, so there's two little stitch pieces, and then you weave the opposite for the other row, and then it gives you this sort of alternating sort of look there. And all said and done, it becomes a very cool wrap that this is what I want it for. I want it for like when we're sitting around the fire and I just need like a layer to kind of wrap around. But wow, it's hefty. Like it can go. She wears it really cool and styles it really cool, and I probably will eventually learn how to do it. But kind of in the picture, she sort of wears it like this, sort of all wrapped around herself, and then again with the plaid showing. And then what you do is these ends that are left over, and I just have them all sort of hanging here, you braid these ends, and so they become really thick and like chunky and significant. So really fun knit. I think I'm gonna knit another one, and I think I'm gonna knit it in my cashmere DK. And it's going to be a significant piece. The really cool part is this is sort of a light layer here when you're knitting this part, but then when you add this second layer of yarn in, it becomes very chunky, kind of thick and hefty, and I think it might be a warm piece, like just to wear. As I said, we do a lot of fires on the deck. We have one of those fire tables, and we do a lot of marshmallow roasting and stuff like that. I just think on a chilly evening to take this out and just wrap up in this and sit by the fire will be just heavenly. So really cool. I've never put weaving back into my garter stitch or any sort of knitting, and I really, really love the plaid effect that it gives. And check back on the next podcast. I'm sure I will have this done. I do 3 or 4 a day because I have other knitting projects going on. So I just cut these super long strands and just tapestry needle weave them in and out every couple of stitches. They tell you there's a way to do it. There's a tutorial. She gives you a tutorial, but I love these colors too. This brown color from Lion Brand Retweed is called Peanut Butter. Some sort of sky blue, some sort of darker Dutch blue, I think this one's called, and this one's called Hay. And I just think these colors are so they almost remind me of like a beachy look, like a beach thing. And I think it would look kind of neat to just hang this over a chair and let it lay around too. So that's all I have to say about that. I like the Lion Brand Retweed, and it's actually tweed. I don't know the details. I would love to find out because I'm geeky like that, but it's some sort of reclaimed tweed yarn and wool, and I don't know how they do it, but maybe for the next podcast I can look it up and let you know how they do the retweed. But I ordered it right off the Lion Brand website. It was hard to find. I went to Michael's and Joann and everywhere that I thought I could find Lion Brand around here and couldn't find it. So I ordered it off the website. It took about 3 weeks to arrive, and I ordered it in a kit. It was the Waterbury Plaid Scarf kit, and in that kit you get the colors that she shows on the sample photo, but you can change those kits out, and the total price for this with all the yarn was $37. So not bad for a cool sort of scarf. So I'm looking here. I think that's it. I think that's my last FO. I showed you this, Chris's sweater, and my friend's Saturday Shrug. So that's the end of the sort of FOs and I would say knitting content. I'm going to talk now about some shop updates and some things that I dyed and put in the shop. And I'm going to show you some of the socks that I cranked on my circular sock machine because I do have one of those. And I dye my sock yarn listed in the shop, and then I always take one skein of the sock yarn and knit up a pair of socks. I do participate in some local artisan markets, and so that is where I sell my socks and my hats and things that I knit on my knitting machine. So if you're interested in that, that's the next section. If you are not interested in that, I really thank you so much again for tuning in and checking out what I've been doing here in my recovery heavily medicated state. I think I did okay for a person who was on some pretty heavy pain medication around the clock. So I kept my knitting beside me and hoped for the best. So that's it for the knitting. Let's get into what I dyed. First thing I dyed, I was kind of tired of dyeing darker colorways and things, and with spring coming, I just needed a fix. This all occurred, by the way, before my surgery, so I can't lift a thing. I have instructions not to lift any more than a coffee mug. So I don't know if that has happened. However, I will tell you that this is my second surgery, and so some of what I had done was reconstructive, and I have some things in a sling. I won't go into any more than that, but there's things that are slung, I guess is the word, with mesh. And so as a result, I am strictly prohibited from lifting anything more than a coffee mug. And I had this, not the same surgery, but similar surgery in August, lots of slinging and things, and it failed. And so hence I needed a hysterectomy and just took everything that was held up out. But I did have some more slinging of what remains. And so yeah, no lifting. So this was all done beforehand because my dye pots are heavy and whatnot. So this is a colorway that I dyed and is listed in the shop. Like I said, I just needed some bright spring colors. And so this has shades of pale yellow. It's got like a whisper of pale pink in here. And then that minty green sort of colorway. So this is in my shop under the fingering tab. And yeah, I'm pretty pleased. I'm not gonna lie, I kind of dyed this with my granddaughter in mind, in hopes of knitting her like a little spring cardigan, like a little variegated spring cardigan. And so I think I have 6 skeins of this over there if you're interested, and let me show you how it knits up. So because I have so many socks and because I showcase my my socks at different markets and things, I don't have a sock blocker. I have a foot. So I'm gonna put the sock on the foot. Just give me a minute. So here it is, knit up on a sock. I think it's super pretty and super springy. So there it is. I'm gonna bring it close so you can see. The way I dye, my dye technique tends to yield really subtle, I call it like a micro striping effect. And then that's what happens on the heel, because I don't really, unless I do a tube and an afterthought heel, the striping sort of gets a little different, but I don't mind it. I think it does really well. And so that is that colorway. I'm not going to lie, the name escapes me right now. I should have looked. I'm a bad dyer and podcaster, but it's over there. You'll see it. It's a spring colorway. It has something associated with spring. I honestly can't remember. But there it is, pretty minty, bright green, and there it is knit up. If you're interested in something for a sock, head on over there. So that's the first colorway. I should have it labeled, but I don't. I'm acquiring quite a pile over here on the floor. And then, like I showed, I did dye up this. This is on my 80-10-10 merino cashmere nylon base. It's got 231 yards in these skeins, and this is the colorway Tiffany. And this is also listed over at clarityfiberarts.com. I recently moved off the Etsy platform and got my own website, and that's been interesting to construct. A big learning curve there. And so I'm still in the process of sort of organizing it, but it's getting there. It's more organized than it was about 2 weeks ago, but I still want to further sort of pare it down and organize it a little bit more. But if you go in there, all my yarns are for sale at the bottom. If you scroll down to the bottom, past the pictures of the things that I crank, the hats and the socks, you will see a section where you're able to buy this yarn. So that is the Tiffany colorway, and you can see an example in this in the photo I have of my friend. I knit her Saturday Shrug in that. Let's see, one more dye that I did. This was again right before my surgery, right before Valentine's Day. I was kind of in a Valentine's mood, but didn't want to dye something Valentine-y and traditional, so I dyed this colorway. It's supposed to be reminiscent of chocolates, and specifically I was looking up pictures of chocolate-covered berries. So somebody made some sort of confection out of chocolate-covered blueberries and chocolate-covered raspberries and things like that, and then they put them in sort of a little, like almost like a Reese's peanut butter cup type liner, and made these little cups out of chocolate covered berries, and it just looks so delicious. And so this colorway name I remember because it's associated with chocolate. It's called Sweets for My Sweet, and it's got some some variegation, and then it has some over here. You can see it's got areas with speckling. And so I will show you it on my trusty foot. Not my foot, the foot. I should name my foot. If you have any name suggestions for my foot, put them in the comments below. I should, once I get to a certain amount of subscribers, I'm going to have a giveaway. Maybe 500 subscribers. I'm going to have a giveaway, and maybe that'll be the giveaway. Name my foot. Okay, so here he is. Again, this is Sweets for My Sweet. And again, with the micro striping and the subtle speckling and things like that. Again, with the heel, that sort of looks a bit different because I just crank all the way through, but I think it's really pretty. I feel like this was so hard to photograph on my website to get those colors to show. I tried a million different things to really get these to show, but it is, sort of this chocolate color, and then there's some burgundy in there, some cranberry red, some like burgundy red, and then some deeper blue, almost like a blueberry color would be. And that's Sweets for My Sweet, and that's in the shop. By the way, both the socks are for sale in my shop, and the yarn. So if you're interested in a gift for somebody and their birthday is a week away and you can't knit a pair of socks in that time, you can go over, and if the size matches what you need, I knit my socks in small, medium, and large. And so if the size matches what you need, go ahead over and purchase a pair of hand cranked socks and tell your friend who knows you're a knitter that you knit them. And I won't tell them, and they won't watch my podcast. So I'm not promoting lying or fibbing. I'm just saying maybe that's what you want to do. Okay, almost there, folks. We're at 44 minutes, and I was really hoping to keep this under an hour, but I knew that it would be long because of all the stuff I knit. And so, last but not least at all, here's a picture. I had this here. It's in black and white because I print my stuff on black and white and on my printer. But here is the shawl that I showed you, and you can see the braided cords at the bottom, and you can see the the sort of plaid motif that it creates. So you literally do every row of the 48 rows on the bottom of the scarf with threading through with those things to create that pattern. Last but not least, right before Valentine's Day and my surgery, excuse me, I'm gonna take a sip of something. Hold on. Now I got an ice cube. Right before my surgery, we took a trip to Washington. We did all the monuments and all that stuff, which was really super fun. But no trip involving me can be done without a trip to a local yarn shop. And so on the way home, on the last day, we drove through Alexandria, Virginia. And there's a yarn shop there that some of you might be familiar with. It is a good source for sourcing knitting for olive yarn if you're looking for any of that. That's where I first came to know about this store. The store is called Space. And so on the way home, I was really, excited to stop by this yarn shop, and it did not disappoint. It was full of tons of things. Specifically some things that I loved. It had a ton of yarn. Again, a huge wall of knitting for olive mohair and all the other knitting for olive products. But she had a large notion selection of Cocoa Knits and all the cool things that Cocoa Knits puts out. And so that was fun. I spent, oh my goodness, probably a half an hour just staring at that wall and looking through everything. And I got a pack of stitch markers. I can't find who made them, but they are the cutest stitch markers ever. They're little mushrooms, and they're really nice. I've been knitting using them, and they don't get tangled up in your knitting and stuff like that. So anyway, I don't have them to show, so enough about that. So they had a huge notion selection, huge yarn selection, and then they also had a really nice book selection of all the different books, and I completely love Patty Lyons. If you ever need a tutorial and look up a Patty Lyons tutorial, she's a great teacher. She puts humor into everything that she does, and she recently came out with a book. I'm looking here. I don't know when this was published. It must be. I'm looking to see when this was published. Nope, can't find it. Must be 2022. I think it just came out because I saw something on YouTube that, she's talking about it all the time and kind of like promoting the book. But this is the book. It's called The Knitting Bag of Tricks. And again, if you know Patty Lyons, you know that she puts a lot of humor into everything she does. And so this book is illustrated so cute. She, again, puts humor. Like these are stitches, but she turned them into little people like hooked on to each other. And so the thing I like about Patty Lyons is everything she tutors you on, she tells you the reason behind why things are the way they are. And so this book is just such a wealth of information. I consider myself a seasoned knitter. I've been knitting for 20 years. And this bag of tricks kind of told me some things or showed me some things. I used it when I was knitting my Turtledove. This is by Espace Tricot, by the way. Here we go. We're starting to get like... I didn't take pain meds already, but this is the Turtledove by Espace Tricot. When I was knitting my Turtledove, I just kind of picked up this book when I was binding off, and I was like, oh, I want to see if she has any tricks for binding off, and she definitely does. She has a trick in the book that teaches you how to bind off without ever worrying about binding off too tightly. And it's not what you think, I don't think. I could be wrong, but it's something I never heard of before. And so if you do this little trick with your needles, you will never have a bind off that is too tight. It puts in extra things, and it's not a yarn over. It's not a yarn over. It's not any of that. It's not the one Stephen West uses. It's very good. The other thing that I learned in this book is when you get to your last stitch on the edge, let's say the hem of a sweater, and I'm going to show you this because I think it's kind of cool. You know how when you knit and you get to that last stitch and you bind off and then you pull your yarn through? Well, when you pull your yarn through, it creates this weird, wonky, like rounded edge. So in the book, Patty tells you how to avoid that edge and get a nice, crisp, clean, squared off looking edge. And I'm going to show you because I used it on my Turtledove. See if you can see it. This is blocked. Okay, I'm going to come in here and show you. Look at that edge. There's none of that weird, sorry, it's flipping. Let me see if I can get it to the camera. There's none of that weird, like rounded off sort of pulled through thing. And it's a very, very easy fix. And you wind up with this edge of your knitting that's nice and crisp and almost like a 90-degree squared off angle. In a lot of circumstances, that is what you want it to look like. And I just think it makes, these little details make everything look nice and professional and well done. And so that's 2 of the tips. She offers, I think it says it, 70 sanity-saving hacks for better knitting. And so I really love this book. And if you're looking for a gift for a fellow knitter, I think this is great. I paid $22 for it at Fiberspace, and I did not, sometimes I buy knitting books and out of just the thrill of seeing them, and I see a couple things that I love and I just buy it, and then I get it home and it's kind of disappointing. It has things in it that I kind of already know, or things that I don't want to even endeavor to do. And so I didn't have a lot of time. My husband was waiting for me in the car. I saw this, but when I saw it was Patty Lyons, I knew that it was going to be super, super cool. So it's on my bucket list to get to see her someday and get to go to a class that I know she travels around and does a ton of teaching. And so someday I hope that she gets near Pennsylvania or around Pennsylvania, and I hope to take a class from her because I love how she adds humor to everything, and I just love her style. She's really funny. Like, she'll be the first to tell you, if you can hack something, just hack it and let it go. And then on the flip side, she'll tell you also, like, do not hack this. Do not flub this. Do not. Just rip it out and fix it, and you'll be so much happier. So she's kind of on both sides of the coin in that sense. And so seasoned knitter or no, this has, actually, I would say, she assumes that you know some things about knitting, and so this probably isn't a book for like a beginner. This is your seasoned knitter, little hacks that you may or may not have known. I have some local yarn shops that have knitting groups and knitting night. Sometimes I participate, but a lot of times my schedule does not permit, and so maybe you could pick up a lot of these things in that type of group, but I don't have that near me. It's kind of me and my knitting, sadly. If you're anywhere near Pennsylvania and you want a knitting friend, look me up, because I would sure enjoy finding somebody and being able to get together somewhere and knit together. I think it would be really fun. So I do some Zoom stuff on knit nights. My local yarn shops have Zoom knit nights, and that's fun, but not quite the same. And so check this out if you have an opportunity. I think you can order it online. I think she has a website. It's not coming to me immediately, but I'm trying to get this all wrapped up. And so I think I'm through it. That was a lot. I'm tired. I hope you're not tired. I hope you enjoyed the content and you found something in here helpful. Again, one more plug. If you like what you see and find the content nice to watch, please consider liking and subscribing. I would really appreciate it. Maybe I'll put some footage in here at the end of our trip to Washington. I didn't film a whole lot, but I may just put some footage in here of some fun things that we did just on a lifestyle perspective. I always love to see people's footage of that at the end. So I hope you are well, and I hope you're finding some time to grab your knitting and a cup of coffee or a cool beverage if you're in a warm climate, and just find the peace that knitting can bring to you and does bring to you, and that you're finding clarity in your knitting craft. Take care, and I hope to see you in 2 weeks. Bye-bye.